Just as a heads up, I've already created the resources that we're going to look at in this lesson, so I'm going to show you how I configured them and how you would need to configure them to mimic what I've done in my environment. If you want a step-by-step instruction instead of how to enable them, then please refer to the transcript below this video. And if you encounter any issues, then go ahead and comment below and I'll help out. But I'm going to show you everything that you need to deploy, in what order, and how you need to deploy it. So CloudTrail can run in individual accounts, as we know, but it can also run as an organizational-wide trail so that all logs get sent to one centralized account. Referring back to the SRA, that would be our log archive account. So we want all AWS accounts to send their CloudTrail data to an S3 bucket in our log archive account. Let's go ahead and do that. How do we do this? Well, step one was to enable AWS Organizations, which you've already done, so good job. Step two was to create our member accounts, including the log archive and security tooling, which you've also already done. Step three is now to deploy CloudTrail organization-wide, and that's what we'll do in this lesson. As a quick note before we get started, you would ideally do this with infrastructure as code instead of manually or with ClickOps. However, I think there's a lot of value in this case in walking through step by step how it looks and how it works, because it really teaches you to understand how this is set up and how it works behind the scenes. But in a production environment, you would absolutely want to deploy this with IAC and or with a service like AWS Control Tower. There's more information about Control Tower in our other course and lesson here. And then I'll provide more information about IAC at the end of this section. To deploy CloudTrail organization-wide, we need to go through a few steps. We need to delegate CloudTrail administration from our management account. But to do that, you'll need the account ID of your security tooling account. So let's go ahead and grab that from here. You can also grab it from your AWS Organizations dashboard if you are not on your Access portal or whatever is more convenient. Just go ahead and grab that ID, and then we'll log into the management account using our administrator access. From there, we'll navigate to the CloudTrail dashboard. And then in the left bar under settings, we can look at adding a delegated administrator. As you can see, I've already done that here. So you can see my account ID that matches the one that I copied for my account name of security tooling. But otherwise, you would want to go ahead and register an administrator because you won't see an account here already. The reason, again, to reiterate that we are selecting our security tooling as the administrator is because we're going to administer the CloudTrail configurations from security tooling, and then we're going to put the data into our log archive account. So keep that in mind. Don't use your log archive account for delegated administration. Use your security tooling. We will also need our AWS organization ID. So let's go ahead and navigate to AWS Organizations. And then from there in the left-hand side, we can see the ID right here. Go ahead and copy and paste this in your notes somewhere, or you'll need to come back here because we will need this in just a couple of minutes. So we'll need this ID here. As a next step, we need to create our S3 bucket where we're going to centralize all of our logs, and that needs to live in the log archive account. So let me go back to my AWS Access portal dashboard, and this time we'll expand log archive and we'll click on administrator access. From there, navigate to Amazon S3, and you'll want to create a new bucket. As you can see, I already have my bucket created, but go through those steps. You'll select general purpose, give it a unique name, and then after that, make sure that you keep ACLs disabled, which is the default. Leave this selected to block all public access. We definitely do not want to give any public access to our CloudTrail logs. I would also recommend that you enable bucket versioning, although I haven't done that in my demo. And then ideally, you would also select this option here for SSEKMS. And under advanced settings, you'd probably want to look at object locking, things like that. Again, I'm not doing that because this is a demo account, but for production, you'd want to seriously consider those options. Instead, we'll click on this and we'll take a look at some of its properties and permissions. So if we go under properties, you can see that I just left the defaults. There's nothing fancy here because this is not a production account. But then if we go under permissions, we need to take a look at the bucket policy. So I'll click on edit so we can get a better view of this bucket policy. I've got this in the show notes, or the lesson notes, I should say, below this video. So that way you can copy and paste. You don't have to manually type everything you're seeing on the screen because there's quite a bit. It's not a super lengthy policy. It's also not a short one. There's a little bit going on. But essentially what we have here is we're allowing access to the principal service of cloudtrail.amazonaws.com to get bucket ACL for this bucket right here, specified as a resource ARN, when the string equals for the source ARN of our CloudTrail trail, which is named org management events. You can rename this to whatever you want. I'm not going to collect data events for this trail. That's why I named it management events, but you'd want to name it something different, and that's totally fine. This is not yet created. So when you copy and paste what you see in the lesson notes, keep that in mind. These are placeholders. You need to change this value here in every resource that you see in this policy to your bucket name, and then you will need to modify the ARN to your CloudTrail trail. You're going to use your management account ID. You will not use your security tooling account ID because technically the CloudTrail trail for organization-wide gets created in your management account, even though you delegated administration to security tooling. So this is your management account ID. Then this will be your future CloudTrail trail name. So either modify it now or you'll need to modify it later. You'll want to do the same thing in the second statement. This time it's for put objects. So this is what's allowing CloudTrail to put objects, to put events and logs in your bucket. The resource ARN is a little bit different because this is an object level versus bucket level operation. So you need to add /*. So you'd want to leave this the same, just modify the bucket name. Same thing here for the source ARN. That's going to be the same value as above here. And then this is just the XAMZ ACL for bucket owner full control, making sure that this account has full control of this bucket. Then we have another put object, but this time it's for AWS logs /, and then this is where your organization ID comes into play. So you need to paste in your organization ID. If you didn't keep it in your notes, you'll have to go back, grab that from AWS Organizations, come back and put it in your bucket policy. Again, we have the same values here. So go ahead and pause here, take a couple minutes to go through and make sure you update these placeholders and values. And then once you think you're good to go, then come back here and we'll proceed. At this point, we've created our bucket, we've updated our bucket policy, we've delegated administration. Let me back out of this. Let me go back to Access Portal, and we are now ready to jump into our security tooling account, again with administrator access, because we're doing admin level actions here. From here, I'll navigate to CloudTrail, and I already have it created, but otherwise you'd want to go ahead and create a trail, and I'll just briefly explain some of the settings, and then I'll show you my existing trail. The main difference here is, I'll just put a random name here, we have this option now because we're delegated admin, otherwise this would be grayed out. So we can enable for all accounts in your organization because we're delegated admin. Instead of creating a new S3 bucket, you'll want to use your existing S3 bucket, and this is where you'll put the bucket name that you selected in just a couple of minutes ago. So you'd want to put that in here. Mine was, as a reference point, cyberdemo.cloudtrail.logs. Yours will be different, but you'll put that in here just like that. You can put a prefix if you want to. For example, if I do prefix, you'll see that it adds it right here in front of AWS logs directory. I left mine out. I don't have that in there, but you can always do that. Again, you could enable SSE KMS. I did not. You'd have to pass in a KMS alias. Then you would want to enable log file validation. That's definitely important. And then you cannot do CloudWatch logs for organization-wide trails using the console. You have to do that through the API or CLI. It's just a limitation of AWS at the moment. So let me back out of that, but of course you'd want to create it. And let me show you what I created here. So this is my org management events trail. It is multi-region, enabled for all accounts. This is my trail location. So that's that S3 bucket we created previously. I did not enable this. I did enable that, and so on. And then all I have is management events. I'm not excluding any data from KMS events or RDS data, and I'm not collecting any data events, and this is not for insights events. So pretty straightforward. Really, it's just one or two key differences when it comes to creating your organization-wide CloudTrail trail as long as you've delegated administration. So once you've created that, you should be able to go back into your log archive. And this time I'll just do read only because I'm not going to be modifying anything. Navigate back to S3, and then we'll go into our bucket. We'll see this directory was created, AWS logs, and then we'll see our management account ID, but then we'll see our organization ID. And within that, we'll see all of our AWS accounts within this AWS organization. This is my management account. I believe this is my security tooling. And then this one is 3397. So this is our log archive. And then we have the other accounts there. If we go into our security tooling one, for example, we'll see CloudTrail digest. And within that, we'll see a bunch of different regions. Same thing for just regular CloudTrail. If we go into the regular CloudTrail directory and say we go to US East 1, down to the year, the month, and then the date, we can see our compressed log files. The digests are used for log file validation. So if you were to back out to this folder here, actually no, it was this one right here, it would mirror the month or the regions, the month, date, year, etc. But this is the information that's used for log file validation. So there you have it. We are now collecting data organization-wide into this centralized logging archive account. You don't have to go into 10 or 20 different accounts if you have 10 or 20 different accounts to pull logs manually from those and feed them into a seam. Instead, you can put it into this account and then feed it into a seam, or as we'll see in the next lesson, feed it into CloudTrail Lake to be able to query this data. Now, if you don't see data in this account, if you don't see these directories starting with this one in your bucket, that probably means you either misconfigured the trail or you misconfigured your bucket policy. As you're reviewing the bucket policy to troubleshoot, make sure you're using the correct source ARN and make sure you're using the correct bucket ARN. Very, very important. If there's anything wrong in this bucket policy, then it's not going to be able to write because it won't have permissions. If you're having struggles or problems, let me know in the comments below or on Discord, and I'll be happy to help. Otherwise, go ahead and complete this lesson, and I'll see you in the next.